the one and only Michael Yon. Michael, you were also up. You're down now in Panama. We'll get to that in a second. But you also spent time, because you're always a little ahead of the curve. And I've known you now for over a decade, like 15 years, when you were doing a war correspondent in Afghanistan and Iraq. But you were up in the Arctic early on. Why did Michael Yon go there?
Well, I went to northern Canada last year with Masako Ganaha because actually we've been to about 30 countries since Biden was installed looking at this, whether it's over at the Strait of Malacca, over in Singapore, and the path that's being built in Thailand on the Kra Isthmus. We look at this stuff all over the world. I'm sitting right now beside the Panama Canal, right? One of the 7 major choke points, strangleholds in the world, which you're very familiar with as a naval man, and also you travel the world yourself. And so I look at this from a Mahan sort of Mackinder view, and I also go on the ground. That's why I recognize that northern route is absolutely vital. And our ancestors knew this. This is nothing new. It's not like we suddenly discovered it. Our great grandfathers knew this. And the Panama Canal right here, I mean, they've been thinking about opening something here since early 1500s, not a canal, but a path between the seas. Speaking of which, this book, The Path Between the Seas, is a very important book to read on this, The Path Between the Seas. And but what I'm getting to is 500 years of path between the seas here in Panama. People wanted to build it. We didn't open it until 1914. But this bankrupted Scotland. Scotland went for it, and they ended up getting absorbed into the United Kingdom in 1707 because they went bankrupt in Darien, right? And then France went bankrupt, and the Spanish got smashed flat here. A lot of people got smashed here, and then we came and somehow did the impossible and opened up this unbelievable canal, which I just flew over it again with a helicopter a couple of days ago from end to end, photographing it again. I've been through the canal in boats and walking up and down it, and helicopters and all works. You've got to see it to believe it. But a lot of what we're looking at is about routes and resources. And Panama is one of the most important little pieces of land on planet Earth. Yeah. It's a path between the continents and a path between the seas.
Michael, hang on for 1 second. Brother Dan's, you hang on a second, too. We're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to come back and talk about the geopolitics of it all. You don't think Trump has the big picture and the implications for the economy here? Like I say, it's geoeconomic and geostrategic. And he's so far ahead of the people at the New York Times or Washington Post. They're yipping at his heels like little puppies, trying to criticize this, and this. This is the big picture executed. That's why it's providential that they stole it in 20. Providential. So Michael Yon, and by the way, Michael was the first guy also down at Darien. It was kind of the pathfinder for us down there. Burcombe, everybody came down right afterwards. But Yon, you're always kind of know, you're like one of Wellington's guys. What's on the other side of the hill? So tell us what's on the other side of the hill. President Trump, very focused. He's got Pete Hegseth, very focused on Panama. You're absolutely correct. It's one of the most important geostrategic locations in the world. And people should not forget, as soon as President Trump had Marco Rubio confirmed, Rubio did not go to London. He did not go to Berlin. He did not go to Moscow, did not go to Jerusalem, did not go to Rome, did not go to Beijing. He sent him down to Panama. And folks, that's a pattern that's never happened before with the Secretary of State. That shows you how serious President Trump's about this. Okay, what's the status? You got BlackRock just bought Hutchison Whampoa. Does that give us the Americans control? If it's not control, you've got all this leaks, and the NBC stories look pretty accurate. They're working through scenarios of American troops. So, Jan, what's going to happen down there?
Well, when Biden was installed, I went straight to Panama. I knew this was going to get screwed up. And so actually I flew to Texas and I went to the border wall that you helped build. I went straight to Colombia and then Panama. And I've spent about a year here since that time, knowing this was going to go somehow awry. Now, the Hutchison Whampoa, I was just at their front gate yesterday and on the other side. I just flew over them with a helicopter looking at it a couple days ago. The purchase has not gone through, right? And there's a bridge right across from Hutchison Whampoa on the Pacific side, which is being built. And we call it the Panamanians call it the China Bridge or Bridge 4. This is the fourth bridge over the Panama Canal, and it lands right at Hutchison Whampoa. Now, that's Balboa Port. And so it's got the Panamanian name is Balboa Port, right? And so the Panama Canal headquarters is right there as well. So this sale has not gone through. China is obviously bucking back like going crazy on this, and they don't want it to go through. They're threatening anybody involved that would sell it to BlackRock, of course. And of course, BlackRock actually wants to keep the Darien Gap wide open so that people will keep flowing through. So this is not, this isn't, not happy days for us, because both China and BlackRock want to keep the weaponized migration going on, invasion. The human osmotic pressure is still quite intense. That human osmotic pressure, I first talked about it on your show several years ago. That's the push and the pull of migration, right? Maybe 4 years ago we were talking about this, the push and the pull of migration, but this is weaponized. Like, for instance, this book is written by somebody who actually does it. She's a socialist. She's one of the people actually doing it, weapons of mass migration, right? And, this is down to an art and a science. And the Darien Gap, those camps are wide open. Now, I'm told that Hegseth is going down there probably in April to Darien, and I think that we want to open at least 3 bases here. I'm not 100% certain on that, but generally when you hear me float something like this publicly, it generally comes to pass.
Yep.
Now, I don't know, however. Now, the Darien Gap, the camp infrastructure down there, the invasion infrastructure is wide open. I was just down there again. Everything is manned, and likewise down in Colombia. I just had some friends down in Colombia looking at the Colombian side of it. In fact, they're down there now, and those camps are wide open. Now, the trickle coming through is maybe 2% of what it was last year. So the water spigot is turned off, but the plumbing is there. United Nations headquarters is right down the road from me at Ciudad de Saber. It's a former Fort Clayton. They're all completely operational, right? That's the former Fort Clayton. For those who are familiar with Panama, is now the invasion headquarters. And down in the Darien Gap, wide open. Down in Colombia, wide open. Over in Europe, still wide open, right? So nothing, and Japan is getting increasingly flooded in with invaders. There's a whole town there called Kawaguchi. I went to look at it. It's mostly Kurdish and Chinese now, inside of Japan. The Japanese call it Kawaguchi-stan, right? So these weapons, we're being hit with, whether it's the jab or the weapons of mass migration, which is, invasion. Ireland's gone with the wind as far as I'm concerned. I went there a couple of years ago, and go ahead, sir. See, I think it's time for me to stop, but I can go for hours.
Yeah. No, I know. We got to bounce. Where do people go? We're going to have you back on. Where do they go to the Substack, get all the details here, because there's clearly something going on that we're thinking through about Panama. The elites down there have screwed the people. The people think one is back. Fink is going to close that transaction. The Chinese are going nuts. And they actually said, hey, it starts us strategically in the Caribbean. They've actually said that publicly. So this is why it's going to happen. Michael, Substack, social media, all of it.
Substack, my name, Michael Yon, Y-O-N, Yankee Oscar November. And I'm on Twitter every day, too. Substack and Twitter. And mostly I just enable other people. Thank you for putting that up. And thank you for subscribing or donating. That's how I do this. That's how I stay independent. But let me say one thing about the Panamanians. The sentiment, I would just to throw a coin in the air, is I would say in our favor of actually taking it back if you do it gently. Because there's a lot of Panamanians, I talk with them every day, that clearly want us to take it back. Others are saying that they will destroy the canal, right? Excuse me. But there's a lot of Panamanians clearly want us to take it back. If you do it gently, ultimately, we need to take it. The bottom line, they're in violation of the treaty, and this is national security.
Michael, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Michael Yon, on the scene in Panama. Been there on and off for about a year after the Darien Gap. Tom Dans, where can people go?